Hello. There are 8 people in the room already. Thank you. It's good to see you out there. Once you start typing, I'll let y'all know who's there. Angela has the night off tonight. So for the Friday live stream, I invited a new friend of mine, Sammer from the Sober Pod. A couple months ago, I guess, I did a podcast with them and had a lot of fun. They posted it not too long ago, and I listened to it, and I'm like, damn, that was really good. That was really a good episode. So welcome, Sam. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here.
Well, it's on such short notice. I really appreciate it. So this is something we do every Friday night. We have a little Facebook group that usually will participate, and people that subscribe to our YouTube channel and so forth. And it's always a lot of fun. It's kind of like a meeting / party podcast type thing. So
it's cool. So you get the people from the website, you get the people who are tuned to your podcast on all the platforms, and a lot of them come here to kind of chill and exchange information and say hi to each other and stuff like that.
Yep. There's Anchor. Hi, Anchor. How you doing? Yeah, Angela will be missed. She is attending a graduation party tonight. So I know she's gonna be missed. And I was afraid, like when she said she couldn't do it, I thought, oh crap, what am I gonna do? But I thought, okay. I just listened to that episode that Sammer put out, and I said, I'm going to call this guy, because I remember telling him I was going to have him on this podcast, and I am going to have all of you guys back sometime. I think that would be a lot of fun. So, hey, Paula, nice to see you there. Before we get started, Sammer, I want to start with some announcements, because we got some things going on in the secular AA community that I want to announce. Let me get my list up here. And I was asked by I don't know how to pronounce this. It's Irish. Tus Nua, Ireland, that group. Hi, Everado. They are having a special deal going on. Let me share the screen here, if I can do that. How do I do that? Let me see. Bear with me. Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay. It was
nice.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the Freethinkers Tus Nua Ireland, and they're having something on June 13th. Hi, Lisa. Good to see you. Hi, Paula. It's called Locked Out of Heaven, Zoom Life. This is Sunday, June the 13th, and there will be Kim O from Secular AA Ireland, Joy S from the Westside Agnostics, and it'll be hosted by Tus Nua, the group over there. And then later on in the month, on the 23rd, they're going to be having an anniversary. It will be their first birthday, and that will be at 9 o'clock GMT on Wednesday, June the 23rd. Another announcement I can make is that yours truly will be speaking at the Secular Overeaters Anonymous group on June 13th at 11 o'clock a.m. Central. And I'll put some information in later. If you wanted to attend that, you have to kind of get the sign-in information for the Zoom meeting later on. But this is the website for the Secular Overeaters group. I'll go ahead and post that in the notes here. Hey, Jackie, good to see you. It's so much fun to see everybody and come in. Sammer says he might have some friends show up as well. Now,
wifey's already here. Lisa's my wife, and she's already here
Lisa.
saying hi.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. How cool. Okay, so there's the Secular Overeaters website if you want to go to it. We did a podcast with them not too long ago. They're good people, and they invited me to go and talk about the secular AA history as I know it since I've been around. Oh, that's right. You're actually getting to see our faces. Yeah, Angela doesn't like to be videoed. so normally we don't do that, but I don't mind. So good to see. Thank you for being happy to see me and Sammer. So that's that. And then on June the 19th coming up is going to be the big Euro ICSA. So this is let me get that side up. There you go. So this is the online Euro International Conference of Secular AA. It'll be on June 19th. It's going to be a big deal. Here's the flyer. I'll go ahead and put this link in there too, so you can find it. There you go. Bam. Wham, bam.
Wow.
There you go. And
work,
they're having a lot of stuff going on. These are good people who I've mistreated badly since I'm trying to help them, or rather hinder them as they put this thing together. But I'm looking forward to attending that conference and making amends by being as helpful as I possibly can.
Oh,
so that would be heroic. So I was a real jerk. To be honest with you, Sammer, I have been in a funk since January, and so and my funk is that people who send me emails, text messages, whatever, don't get a response. It's like I've been hiding from the world, and I mean it's just been bad. I'm coming out of it. I'm actually getting professional help for it, and I think it's gonna work out fine. So anyway, there's that. And then that's on June 19th. And then we have the big conference coming up that people keep asking about. It will happen. It's on October 29th through the 31st. And it's the International Conference of Secular AA. It will be held in Bethesda, Maryland. And the registration information will be posted very soon. I just talked to our new IT person, and what we're going to do, we have a special vendor who's going to do the registration stuff for us and build a website and everything. So that way you can just click on the link. It'll take you there and you can register for the conference. And we'll be posting more information about what will be going on at the conference soon and how you can volunteer if you'd like to host a panel or workshop or something like that. And now here in the United States, things are getting a little bit better. So many people being vaccinated and everything. I think that will be a pretty nice conference. I was talking to John H. from the DC group the other day, and he told me, I mean, some astronomical percentage of people in that area have been vaccinated. I think it's like 80 or 90%. It's like really crazy in that area. You're from around there, aren't you, Sam?
I'm right there. You know what's funny, John? And Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, honey. That hotel, the Conference of Secular AA, that Hyatt, is what my wife and I were offering our guests at our wedding. That's where we were offering them to stay.
Oh, how about that?
I mean, Bethesda is not far at all from me.
Okay. Well, you're going to have to go to this conference then.
This is so interesting that it's down there. Are you coming? You're not.
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
Oh, you can be there.
Yeah, I will be there.
Nice.
I have to do something kind of weird with work because I have to always do something at the end of the month, but I work remotely anyway, so I can bring my laptop and to the hotel, do my little work that I need to do, and then go to the conference. So I think that's what I'll end up doing.
Done deal. If we're in town, I'll be there to meet you, at least to meet you.
Yeah. It should be a pretty good conference. It'll be interesting. Our conferences can be kind of colorful. You know, we sometimes we yell and scream at each other. I don't know why. But anyway, so it should be pretty interesting. And I think that's pretty much it. I do have a lot of episodes coming up on this podcast. Since I've been in my funk, I haven't posted anything for about a month. And I've got about 17 episodes out there, Sam, that I need to post, that I need to edit and post. And I'm going to make a really ambitious effort to do like 3 a week, you know, if I possibly can. I know it's crazy, but
it's putting so much pressure on yourself, John.
Well, I know, but if I can't do it, I can't do it. But I have a guest that I recorded like a couple months ago, and they're like asking me, when's this podcast ever going to come out?
I know what you mean.
You know,
my guests stop asking.
So I'm like, I really feel bad about that, but what can I say? It's Anyway, it's a good problem to have. So now that's it for the announcements. I will take off the sharing screen. Whoop. Stop.
Lots of good things happening, man. This is great.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. We have a nice little community here, and we've kind of it's been growing ever since COVID too. But it's pretty cool. But anyway, we're here to talk about you and the Sober Pod. So Sammer does a podcast with 2 other guys. That would be, is it Devin and Chris, right?
You got it. Yep.
And they started this in February of 2019. Is that right? Okay. Yep. And they do a really good job. I mean, the thing that I really liked about your podcast is, and I mentioned this on the episode, is that your sound quality was excellent from the beginning. And that's because one of the guys is like a professional audio guy and you actually record in a studio. But beyond that, the chemistry between the 3 of you is just really great. And you have a great sense of humor and just a lot of fun to listen to. So let's start, Sam, if you don't mind, giving us a little bit of introduction about you and your recovery and how you met these two guys and started this podcast.
Oh my goodness. That's so Devin, Chris, and I met in 2000, in around 2009. When we all got sober. I've had a slip since. They stayed sober. And of course I'm back, and it's been 5+ years. So get that out of the way. Our friendship did nothing but continue to grow. The love continued to grow. We are people that may not see each other for weeks, sometimes months on end. When we get back into a room, you know those friends that you have that are just so, you just click. And they really supported me through the hard times, and we all supported each other when we first came in. So it's interesting. Chris and I have had experiences where we might think about an idea, such as we started a big book meeting at the aftercare house that I was in after my treatment, because I didn't know what the hell the big book was or what this thing was about. So we figured, well, why don't we start one and really get down to the nitty gritty of it and invite people that know it. But I think subconsciously for me, it was, well, at least it'll be on our turf, meaning like maybe I can learn the way I would want to learn. And it was about learning. It wasn't about running the show. I mean, other things were about running the show, but this particular thing was like, I really want to learn what everybody shares about. And at this point, I think I had 8 to 10 months maybe through the treatment centers that I've been in and the psych wards and everything. It's the way that I got sober. It wasn't pretty, but it ended up okay. So I felt like, fast forward about 10 years later, the idea of starting a podcast for me was very similar. It was sort of a result of contemplation and meditation and just sort of what's next. What is the calling for me? What is in my bones? What is it that I need to do next? And my inspiration came from 2 knucklehead guys that love the rock band that I do.
Oh.
I was Googling something about, like, does this rock band have a podcast? Like the Beatles do, the Who does, all my favorite bands do. Like, does this one? And I found them, and I listened to 2 episodes, and I was like, that's what it is. That's what I've been feeling like. I've been feeling like being on a platform where I can, again, same thing kind of happened in the big book meeting that we started, to get people that inspire me. They have a different sort of recovery. I want to sound what it's like. I want to feel what it's like. I want it to be from their words. I couldn't care about it being in the format of what AA meetings are usually like. Anchor, the rock band, is Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam. Okay, cool.
The mighty, mighty Pearl Jam. So it absolutely was because of a calling and an inspiration. And I didn't care for it. I was saying I didn't care for it to be someone who comes in and just tells their story. Bad past, doing okay now, or bad past, things turned really bad and I'm doing okay right now.
Right.
I wanted it to be really, let's dig deeper into this. And some of it worked. Some of it is still shelved, and I probably will never release the episodes. But we got to learn somewhere, somehow. And I felt like what you said, which I really appreciated. I felt like my chemistry with those guys was real. Now other people were telling me, which is cool, because I've always felt like, I lay in traffic for those guys, and I believe they do the same for me. And there's a lot of love in there. And then we got the people that we liked. And sometimes, like, my journey into it now is seeking people like you, John, that are doing something that's not in the norm, or at least the norm, the way that I know the norm to be. So this secular recovery is very interesting to me. It's very, appealing in its own way, just as normal AA is, I guess. And yeah, this is where we're headed now. So I think Chris is going to take a back seat for a while. He's got a lot of stuff going on. I think it's going to be me and Devin. And like I told you the other day via email, we do it whenever the heck we want to.
Yeah.
And we do it and we don't do it when we don't want to. I don't know if it's good for our viewers and our listenership and whatever that thing is called, but when we post something, people usually have good responses, and when we have nothing to say, we just don't say anything, I guess.
I know. The people who listen to this podcast are very forgiving when I don't post, because there are some times when I do kind of hit a wall and I need a break. I just need a break. And I just, I wish I could plan it out. But what happens is and maybe in the future, as I work on this little problem I've got, I will be able to plan out my breaks and budget my time a little bit better. But my pattern has been that I go through this spurt of creativity where I put out all these episodes. I'm very productive. And then all of a sudden, bam, it's like hitting a wall and I stop. Boom. Yeah, that's it. And it might go for a month where I don't do anything. So that's what's happened here. And then time goes by and it's like, damn, it's been a month. Wow.
Yeah.
But it can really be a slog, can it, doing this?
It can. And, for me, it's really important to keep it. A big part of it is laziness. Sometimes I just don't want to go anywhere.
Well, you have a life too. You have a job, you have a family, you have other things to do.
Absolutely. And I really would want the guest to, I don't know, I have to be in a place where what we're talking about is what was meant for us to talk about, what was scheduled for us to talk about. And sometimes it changes when the guest comes over. And you realize at the beginning, like, man, I've got so many friends. My network is hundreds and hundreds of people in this area. And then you realize, well, that doesn't mean you want to have every single one of them on a podcast.
Right.
It's not like I can bring anybody and just come on in. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about that. But some of my friends, as you saw probably in the format that we have, we talk about anything. Like a friend of mine was a sailor. He was literally a sailor on a ship, and he spent 6 months out on a ship, and that's in his early recovery. So we brought him on to sort of talk about what it was like to get sober in isolation. So some of the nitty gritty I go into is like some of these niches I go into are those just right. Very particular aspects of someone's recovery that strengthened them, or made them weaker, or had them seek God or run away from God or not believe in God at all. So all of that mixed in together is, zero agenda and just a lot of passion.
Yeah. Happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah.
Lisa mentioned it was your birthday. I was late catching that. I read Anchor's note first about a couple weeks ago. That's Quality Bloom. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? Yeah. Because sometimes they have a little side conversation out there that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. Like Joe is talking about paternity. I have no idea why.
Yeah.
Don't know. But anyway.
Wish I had a pattern. Okay, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
It's a joke. So he's the thing about Joe is he's really smart, and sometimes his humor just kind of goes over my head. But he is very smart, and he's funny too. You're good. You're good, Joe. Okay. Anyway, so back to you, Samer. Yeah. What my experience of podcasting about recovery for me has been kind of transformative. Can you talk about how it has impacted you personally and how it may have helped or even hindered you in your recovery?
Oh, that's such a great question. John, one thing it did that I immediately thought of when you asked the question is, I guess it made me realize that there are people out there that, although you may not be recorded, that they're going to remember what you say. And it just made me,
good point.
And it just really made me look at the things I say, how I say them without total obsession. I mean, Lisa, you correct me, honey, if I'm wrong, but not without, because I can get that way. I can get totally obsessed with something and I become self-centered and I just isolate within myself, and it's a freaking mess. It becomes a mess. But not this. Like, this has just made me sort of aware that my thing is people. It's always been. It's always been the connection. It's always been dynamic. For me, growing up, I remember sitting back and looking at the dynamic of my father with other men in our lives, such as my uncles or my older brother, or even me at some point. It just sort of look at those dynamics, and so it made me really sort of hone in on that a little bit more as to the dynamics, because I believe the true friendships that we have, and we're still in that part of the Sober Pod where we bring in people that we know, and you are really the first one that I felt like courageous to reach out to. Yeah, reach out to. I don't know you, but I'm going to ask you to be a guest because I like what you're doing.
Cool.
Now I'm excited to continue doing that. But
I'm flattered.
Yeah. Oh man, it was great. I want to continue doing that, but for the most part, it was our friends, and it just made me feel like I have a connection with every single one of them.
Yeah.
And the connection is deep. And if I was to step back and think about where we've been and where we are, there's a story there, and it's a wonderful story. And not to sound trite, but it is a love story. I mean, my whole if the glass is half full for me, as it is today with you here right now, the glass is half full. It's about love. If it's not half full, it's about it's about bullshit. But no, but it's true. It's like the connection is so strong, and you can bring someone to the show, and like I said, you may not get into those conversations in a meeting. Forget about it. No way. That's not the format for it. When we're 20 guys having dinner before the meeting or after the meeting or someone's barbecue, you know how men are sometimes. We don't get deep either in that sense. But the podcast brings another angle out.
It's a very intimate medium.
Yes.
That's what surprised me the most about it when I got into it. Now, prior to getting into podcasting myself, I would listen to podcasts. I'd listen to recovery podcasts. I'd listen to atheist podcasts. I like to listen to those. I would listen to astronomy podcasts, things like that. And I would sometimes listen to the podcast before I'd fall asleep, and I did feel like a connection to the people that were speaking to me and so forth. But I never really thought about it. Right. Then I started doing a podcast, and I like what you had to say about how you're more conscious about the things that you say. That, sometimes I will hear myself say something and I'm like, why the hell did I say that? But the thing that really has really got me is just what you said. It was that connection with these people. And when I'm doing a podcast and talking to somebody, I'm usually, if I'm really on the ball, I'm listening really well. I'm listening better than I do when my wife is talking to me about something, or, just in regular life. I listen really intently. And then when I go through the editing process, as I prepare for the podcast, I listen again. And anyway, these stories have just seeped into me. They have not left me. All those people I've talked to over all these years their stories are in my mind. They have all brought something to my life. I've learned something from each of them, and they've helped me. They've changed me over the years, all these people. And I don't know how I could have ever experienced that if not through a podcast.
Man, and in your case, the library that you have is, it's very impressive, John. I mean,
you.
What I like about it too, it's a secular podcast. Great. You're still bringing in chaplains and people who wrote books about spiritual nature of things and God and not God and all of that, chaos. And I love that. That's totally what the Sober Pod wanted it to be. And we say in the intro, that we're not, we're essentially not allied with any with any 12-step programs or anything like that. We're just who we are.
Yeah, we talked about that too. Like you mentioned that you talk openly about your experiences in 12-step fellowships, and you don't hide behind. That's not a problem. But you're not there representing any of them. That's, we talked about that whole thing. I used to have AA in the name of this podcast, had to take it out for that very reason, because I felt like that did kind of constrain me to having to follow traditions with my podcast. And it just didn't, the look was just, it just wasn't the right thing to do. So I'm glad that we did that name change. But
I love it beyond belief. That's it. It's
Yeah.
Beyond Belief. Is it Beyond Belief Sobriety?
Beyond Belief Sobriety.
Sobriety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
like
going to
it.
call it Sobriety Beyond Belief, but my wife didn't like it that way. She liked it the other way. So we did it Beyond Belief Sobriety. So anyway.
I agree with her. I like
Yeah.
that too. Awesome.
Yeah. It was something about, she said the sobriety beyond, anyway, whatever. So
Yeah.
that's it. So what have been some of your more, okay, so what have been some of your more memorable guests? And don't talk about me. Talk.
I won't. Although you were the topic in your case was very memorable.
Yeah.
You're the only one that talked about flat out secular stuff, which is really cool. Oh my God! Can I just say, I can't say who it is, but
okay.
but I swear, John, this guy came on and it was just 5 hours of his story. I don't think I'm exaggerating.
Mm-hmm.
You guys keep me honest out there, Chris Dev, if you're hearing. It I think we started recording at like 9, and we tried. This was one of our first episodes.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to navigate. You build the craft a little bit to show somebody where to go, or give some cues or something, but it was just one thing after the next. And what's funny about that, guys, is that they kept repeating in the beginning that they don't want, that they didn't have an agenda. Because I was like, well, what do you want to talk about? Let's focus on something. And we were still kind of developing the rhythm of the podcast. And he came on, and man, it's very fucking memorable.
That's
I'll tell you that, because I was like, that's
5 hours is incredible. Were you able to do anything with that?
No, it got shelved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I did do with it, and it was definitely an experience in growth, is tell the person exactly what I was doing. And I'm one that's usually fearful of that because I want to be liked.
Yeah.
So I told this person, I love you, but this was a bit much. I don't know what I can do with this, because it was just your story and there wasn't anything. And we always tell the guests, let's have it more of exactly what you and I are doing, John. Let's have it more of a conversation and that sort of dynamic, because we don't want to be 3 co-hosts focusing on you and the spotlight's only on you. With some guests at work, with others it doesn't. Another memorable guest was my buddy Matt, who is a restaurant, I don't know what to call him, restaurant operator, and but he's like a amazing bartender, like really, really good bartender. And he's got buku years of sobriety. He's one of those guys. That was his career. He knew it. He did it. Now he's managing restaurants, or opening up the restaurant for that company. And he brought all these drinks with him. And he started making us all these mocktails as we were recording. And each single one was just like, oh my God, what is this thing? What's that thing? What is making it look like that? It turned into like a mocktail podcast.
Oh, funny.
How to have your, how to have your sans alcohol drinks, but really, whatever. But it was great, from everything from the way that he slapped the basil before he put it in the drink to the way he brought everything with him.
Yeah.
So I told the rest of the guests, Matt raised the bar, because at this point you got to bring in some shit with you guys too. Because,
that would be fun. We have a Sands bar here in KC, and I'm assuming they're still around and doing well. That'd be kind of fun to have them on to talk about that. I mean, that's kind of something that's fairly new phenomenon. I think those weren't around when I was first getting sober. Anyway, I don't know when you started seeing those things pop up, but it's kind of nice. I think what I'm noticing anyway is more people are just looking at sobriety as just a healthy choice to make.
I agree.
They're not just necessarily getting to the point like you and I did where it was a big problem in their life. They're just saying, you know what, this just isn't healthy. And they
100%. I think so too. And I think that those, I think there is a market for that there. You know what I mean? I want to have a virgin drink of this, that, and the other. And I know, Chris and I have talked about it many times before on the podcast. If it was on the menu, I'll order it. And I think there's a lot of us in recovery that would. If it doesn't have alcohol in it and it looks like it tastes awesome, I'm in. I just don't always want it to be the boring ass ginger ale or Pepsi or Coke. It's just so boring. So, do something for us for once, like, geez, make us some drinks. And Matt killed it. So he was a fun guest. He talked about getting sober super young, and what his attitude was, what it was like going in. And then John, who I mentioned, was also memorable. I knew John's story very well. He's one of my mentors, if you will, or one of my helpers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very important for me to air that episode to show to I guess have listeners feel and listen to what John had to go through when he first got sober, abandoned on a ship that he had to cook for people. He was a cook on a ship, and he was a merchant marine, and he did that 6 months out of the year. And so we asked him, what was the thing that kept you afloat? No pun intended. Like, what was the thing that kept you balanced? And he said speaker tapes.
Oh, interesting.
Speaker tapes, meditation. He talked about the literature. And so when he came back, he's somebody that really goes to a lot of literature meeting. That's what he knows.
Yeah.
So I found that story just fascinating in that sense. All of us have one. Some of the stories are.
It is interesting,
I don't know, yeah.
because you don't find, especially that, because you don't find too many of the loner type people and getting, at least I don't hear it so much anymore.
Yes.
But back in the old days, like when they wrote the big book, there were a lot of people out there who didn't have a meeting to go to. I remember one time I was visiting our archives here in Missouri, and I ran across a letter that somebody from Missouri sent to the General Service Office. And the person was asking if there were any AA meetings in the state of Missouri. And they wrote back, said, no, there aren't any, but here's our book. They sent them the book, the big book.
Oh, wow.
So imagine that. This guy in Missouri, wanting to get sober. He didn't know anyone else around that was in his position. But he had a big book, So, I think that was one reason they put that thing together. And I don't know it would be interesting to know whatever happened to that guy if he made it.
I was going to say, God, I wish we can get him as a guest on the podcast.
Yeah, I don't know where in Missouri he was from, but he wasn't able to get to meet him. But yeah, there was a lot of that. I mean, it would have been tough in those early days. I was pretty lucky, when I was getting sober, I could get to a meeting almost any time of the day here in Kansas City. So, and I went to a lot of them too.
Then you went to a lot of them in the beginning. I remember that. Yeah. I mean, to think about where we are now with the platforms that we have for recovery and sobriety, and sometimes it gets a little muddled, I guess, if that's the right word, but there's so much of it, whereas before, like you said, mailing a book and saying good luck.
Yeah.
We hope we see you soon. And I mean, just that is within, within decades. I mean, we're not talking about centuries yet, not even close.
Right. Lisa points out that it's still that way in some other countries, and that's true.
It's very true. It is very true. There are some underground AA meetings, and from what I heard, and I've never been to Asia, but I've been to places around Asia. Living in some of them, but like Asia specifically, I think China specifically, their AA is like underground. It's got to be underground. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? You're so desperate, but nobody can catch you with a big book.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's to see how the other half lives, And that was my dream. It's that, I don't know, John, if it's the same with you, but you have some metrics you can look at with your hosting a platform to see in which countries you're being listened to. Yeah, isn't that? I mean, I don't even want to. I don't even want to know how many countries listen to you, but we get a few international.
Yeah,
and every time I'm like, I can't believe someone from France or the UK or Thailand or, I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it does blow me away, the reach of this thing. I think almost every country. Except for some places in Africa and so forth, I've seen. Listen, I think so far where we're at now, about almost 600,000 downloads since I've been doing this. I think is where I'm at.
I'm sorry, how many downloads?
About 600,000.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's over almost 6 years now. So, but yeah, that's a lot of people. It just kind of blows me away when I think about it.
It's a lot of people. You're reaching people that are going to remember how you made them feel, and you're never going to know who they were
No.
and what they were feeling at that point. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool to know that our reach is wide. And honestly, it's not like it's costing us. At least for us, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg. The studio was there, and Devin. Shout out to Devin for being so gracious with his time and his studio. And my whole thing was this: if I reach, I think I said it in the first episode, if I'm able to reach somebody in Alaska,
Mm-hmm.
and if they would ever write us back and say good job or like thank you for doing what you're doing, then my job is done.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing listeners from Alaska, but they haven't written us yet, so I'm waiting on that. And then I really will feel that my job has been done. I set out to reach one person in Alaska. But another cool segment we added to our show is we called it Where Do We Go? And we have a kind of a rockin', oh, I love it, a rockin' jingle behind it, Where Do We Go? And we choose one of the cities from the reports that you and I will look at for that.
Okay.
You know, and we just focus in on what's special about those cities, but in terms of recovery, if we can get any information on them. So we've done a few. We choose the ones with the funny names, of course. We choose ones that are that I've never heard of. And, Devin's the one that presents it. And it's been cool. We don't do it every single episode, but it's been fun. And there was one listener, I got to tell you the story. There was one listener that emailed us and said, I was listening to you guys driving. And you guys said there was one listener from, I'm going to botch it. I don't even remember which city it was, honestly. And she's like, I have to stop the car. That was her. Me. That was me.
That's funny.
And she wrote us back like a one person wrote us back like a. So there's a certain attraction for me that our podcast is still very like independent. It feels like a garage band.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like we've signed to a major record label or anything. It still feels like we're just jamming out in a garage band and just a few people listen to us and like us.
Yeah.
And so far so good. I'm happy with that.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you here and to talk about your story and the podcast. I'd like to kind of shift gears now. I would like to make sure that the phones are open, so everybody please call in, and you can ask Samer a question. You can talk about whatever you want to. You can type in questions there in the chat room as well. I put together a lot of stuff because I thought, what if Samer doesn't show up? What if something doesn't happen? So I kind of put together like a little emergency plan, just in case. So I got some different things, a little topic that we could either talk about, Samer, or maybe this might be fun. What if I read to you some posts from our Facebook group and have you respond to some of those? I'd like to know what your opinion would be from some of those.
I would love that. That's such a great idea. I love that.
All right, and I'll respect the people's anonymity. Okay, but this is straight. People in the chat room, by the way, are intrigued by the underground meetings, so they want to know more about that. So we'll have to learn more about that for those guys. But yeah, you can imagine like in a totalitarian state, they don't like that. Ooh, Joe thinks this is interesting. Okay, so this is from the Facebook group. Okay, here we go. And this post here is from Chris P, and it's about finances. And I'd like to get your opinion or take on this, Samer. Okay. Looking at my finances after multiple cheap trips since I got vaccinated, amazing how much you save not drinking. I think that's a really good point to make to someone who even thinks they might be drinking too much. The amount of money saved from not drinking.
Mm-hmm. What's this question?
There's no question. This is a comment.
It's just a comment.
That's what he posted. He posted that on the Facebook group so people could respond to that. It's like you say, and people can argue about it too. They can say, "No, God damn it, I never saved any money when I stopped drinking." No,
interesting.
I did notice that. I mean, well, first of all, not actually. So when I stopped drinking, I didn't have a job and I didn't have any money. So I had all kinds of serious financial problems. So I wasn't really enjoying the fruits of having money. But one thing I did notice was time. I had more time.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time, if I didn't have anything to do, I was in a bar, right?
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was no downtime for me,
Right.
So that's the one thing I noticed immediately is, wow, I have a lot of time in the day to do things.
I tell you, I agree with him 100%. I thought that his thing was we should approach more newcomers with that
Oh,
point.
right. He did say that. He could say,
Right. And
yes,
I feel like, you know what, man, you can't approach somebody with anything of the sort. But
true.
as far as I'm concerned, yes. Oh my God, John. I was a drug addict, for crying out loud. I
Mm-hmm.
went and whatever I had was gone. I leeched off my mom for as long as I could. I took advantage of family members' kindness. I did all the cruddy crap that we do, and thank God for a 9-step. I'll tell you that. Really, I mean, I really, really, really took advantage
Yeah.
of the way I was feeling in order to go out and make those amends. And at some point, my sponsor said, "You need to sit down and do some calculations as to the money that you've spent and how you're going to make amends to yourself
Ah,
with that." It was a really
yeah.
kind of cool twist because he knew how bad I felt with all the money. Because not to blow smoke, you know, not to blow smoke or
Mm-hmm.
anything, but man, I like to give my money away and do good things with it.
Mm-hmm.
I did, but the addiction took first place. There's no way I was
Yeah.
gonna give money to St. Jude Hospital, which is something I try to do every month, and
Mm-hmm.
still be able to go and cop my dope. Like that's just not it. It doesn't equate. But
Well, I
yeah,
kind
I
of agree
think
with you. I don't think it's really a selling point. Like you should really get sober and think about how much money you're going to save
yeah,
from it.
yeah.
But
It's the
maybe
same thing with
someone
somebody
who,
smoking.
yeah, maybe someone who doesn't really have, that big of a problem. Okay, here's the next one. This one I think is going to be interesting because it might be controversial. We
Bring
don't
it.
shy from controversial in the Facebook
Let's do it.
in the Facebook group. In fact, a lot of people thrive on it. And here it goes. Okay, this one is by Demo P, and it's about AA Big Book: Trash or Treasure. Ooh, okay, here we go. Seems it's neither to me. Been around a while and have studied it straight through. I've even taken Christians through it as a sponsor myself. That was great. They're still sober. I've been in and out lately. There are occasional sentences that I still gravitate towards, but it's the agnostics that are my real pals. Historically, still interesting and sometimes as a reference book.
What does it sound like to you that he has a problem with in the book?
I don't think that they really have a problem with it. They, some people do have. I'll read on some of the comments after Demo. So I don't think Demo really had any. She just wanted to know what other people think about it. Demo seems to think that it was historically it was interesting and there were some good references in the book that helped her.
Right.
But here's what other people had to say. Jill S. I love how it outlines the steps, and I've been really digging the stories lately. But a lot of what's in the first 164 could be removed. We were reading We Agnostics in my Saturday meeting, and my eyes just about rolled out of my damn head.
That's a tough chapter to read.
That is a tough chapter.
Yeah.
I guess there's two other comments I'll read, then we can talk about these. This is from John M. I argue that it was one of the most influential books of the 20th century. Tens of millions of people around the world were impacted. For that reason alone, it's a treasure. But much of it shows its age and limited understanding. John M. Interesting.
Interesting.
And this one here is from John L. He writes, "Arg! The dishonesty always rankled. We Agnostics was okay for a bitter laugh, as was Two Wives. Some wisdom is scattered through it, but it all seems incomplete, half-baked, and tainted by AA God. I remember I found some stuff in the beginning useful, but none of the stories. Way too many people worship it, which I found hilarious and annoying. The message is powerful." I'm surprised that from our group that I didn't see more vehement comments of people that really hated the book. Most people had thought there was some value in it, but still had some problems with it. So what do you think about all that?
It's interesting to me. I'm very weary about a powerful book. So
Ooh.
it makes me very cautious. I was born a Muslim in Beirut, Lebanon, and I was born at the time of the Civil War.
Oh.
And essentially, what all of it boils down to me um, is that there's somebody that believes something different than you, and by God, they're going to show you
Yeah.
and they're going to rule you. And what I'm realizing by the really deep and spiritual and studious people that actually look at it from an objective perspective and
Hmm.
and a learned perspective is that those things are taken out of context. So I'm very weary, but it's also kind of different for me because I made a decision unbeknownst to me in the beginning of, or I guess subconsciously, in the beginning of my sobriety, as I was saying, to start a big book meeting because I wanted something to sort of bind us together,
Right.
like the people that I'm getting sober with. And I was in a treatment center for a very long time, and I saw how group therapy was going. And there wasn't any anchors in there, meaning like there wasn't anything we were discussing. If maybe a topic was thrown in, that's cool. But what I started seeing is people just sharing about their day, moving around their day. Some had better day than others. Today was a shit day. I got fired. I got hired. All those things, and there was nothing for me um, inspirational about that. I judge it much less harshly now, but in the beginning, I was hungry. I really, really was hungry. So we started a big book meeting and started reading. The thing that caught my attention, which still does, are the passages that have to do with the connection of people,
Mhm.
of the step work, of my boy. Now I'm forgetting. Whatever, a couple of those little stories within the first 164
Mhm.
pages of things that I relate to.
Mhm.
And I I loved it when they talked about the double actor.
Yeah.
We have two lives, the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I loved it when they talked about self-centeredness and selfishness being the root of our problems. I agreed with all those things because I'm looking at my life saying this is spot the heck on. And I was amazed at the fact that it was from so long ago.
Mm.
I got to tell you, with the God stuff in that book, for me, go to a big book meeting. If I line up all my friends right now, the people that inspired me, AA, they're all believers. I am still seeking. I don't know where
Mhm.
I stand. I'm
Mhm.
open. And honestly, the past 2 years, John, I've been really enjoying where I've been. Before that, I was kind of beating myself up like, no, I need to be there. I need
Oh.
to be where they are because they
Right.
seem to have something. But it's funny because they're over there going like, well, Sammer kind of is somewhere where we want to be. It's kind of weird, the grass is greener stuff. But I don't go to a lot of meetings where it's find God or die, motherfucker. I just
Yeah. Yeah.
I really do not. I'm not down with that. And
No.
I also have never been to a meeting, but I probably wouldn't like it either if there was a meeting. Someone comes in and says, "There's no God. You guys are a bunch of fools." Like I just don't like that sort of confrontation BS.
No. No.
I like the connection that people have, what they did to
Yeah.
get sober. I think you ran through a lot of that on our episode when you were
Mhm.
there to sort of. I really related to your story, John, because you and I had the same thought of we're being a parrot. And I
Right.
was a parrot for a few years. That did not help me. That did not keep me sober.
See, I was just
I,
gonna say what you just said was healthy in that you're thinking that, I don't need to be where they are. I'm enjoying the journey. That's a really healthy place to be when you think back to where, you know, I was and maybe you were doing okay, I'll just conform and do what you guys do.
all day, all day. It's like I'm even talking to my sponsees, telling them like, I don't mind asking someone if they prayed today. That's a good question. Whatever. If I know
Hmm.
they believe, it's a good question to see if they did the patterns of things that have helped them in the past. It's a great question. But I'm not going to hit you with your relapse because you didn't get on your knees and pray this morning.
Right.
And I'm not going to
Yeah.
tell you all these things that I just don't know for a fact is what's taking you out. I mean, what took
Yeah.
me out was untreated PTSD.
Yeah.
Uh, what took me out was emotions I couldn't handle anymore, no matter how many prayers you threw at them.
Right.
no matter how many steps I worked. And that's the
Right.
problem with it too. It's my friend Jake, he says it best. He says, you can be in an AA meeting just talking the talk all day long, and he's seen better results when he sees people pray with their feet.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
always stuck with me. It always
Doing
stuck with
something.
me. Doing something.
Right.
Helping somebody, not telling me what to do, telling me what you did, and see if
Right.
I'll do it. See if it inspires me enough. You know, I've been really lucky in surrounding myself with a lot of people that even allowed me to fail.
Mhm.
They saw it coming, and not many of them walked up to me. They did say we're concerned what's going on, and there wasn't many intervention, but they allowed me to fail. And I think that failure back in 2016 was key for me coming back in a much different way. Don't get me wrong, it took me like 2 years to get over the shame because my ego was really, really bruised.
Sure.
And when I came out of that, it was so freeing. It was so it was really just that. It was the journey begins. God, what's it gonna be now?
Yeah.
What's it gonna be now? And the things that I can't explain that happened that are beyond my power, those to me kind of paint this spiritual picture that I like to meditate on and think about. And the things that don't, I just let go of. And part of those things are overly promoting God in a meeting of someone that may not really be into that yet. Maybe they need some time. Let's not scare them away. And I get argued with that all the time. Like, let's not shy away from talking about this, that, and the other. And for me, I'm a little bit more, I look at it as let's be a little bit more tactful in some circumstances.
Well, you know, even in the Big Book, they suggest that. There is a place in the Big Book where they says if your prospect is very religious, then by all means stress the spiritual aspect. But if your prospect is not, don't push that. You know, it says that, and not exact in those words, but it does recommend that, you know, meet the person where they are. Don't push this stuff on them. Then there are other places that say there is one who has all power, that is God, find him now. So
sometimes it's mixed messages, but I mean, imagine they're telling you back then in the 30s to meet the person where they are. And later on in the social work field and the psychology field, 60 years later, that's called motivational interviewing.
Yeah.
We use it as counselors.
Yeah.
Therapists use that to meet their clients where they are. And and that's the amazing thing about the Big Book, that it was in a way an inspired book, and it came to us by an egomaniac with an inferiority complex and a zillion other defects, and it had to be him. It had to be.
Well, it's certainly interesting, and there's been a lot of discussion about it because I guess the General Service Conference is thinking about making some changes. I'm gonna go on. We got a little bit of time left to the next post that I found that I thought was interesting. This is from Caitlin P, and it's about life skills. And she writes, "Does anyone else see a connection between having skill sets for life skills through therapy or other paths and finding success in AA in general? The people I see who relapse or just simply survive seem to not be gaining skills like tolerating uncomfortableness, reflecting versus reacting, etc. I have miles to go, but I just feel sometimes like a clinical approach or added process might assist. Thoughts?" And this is my first post, so please be kind. Oh, poor Caitlin, your very first post, and we put it on the podcast. But
bravo, Caitlin.
So what do you think about that? Life skills, you know, and, you know, she's saying that, you know, she thinks that, you know, one thing that could cause a relapse is just not working on some basic life skills. And I kind of think that's what recovery is about, basically, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I think that's very true. And that's very true for me. I was lucky to get sober in a treatment center, and I learned how to balance a checkbook at 33 years old. I learned how to make laundry, fold laundry. You know, I learned how to stay sober and get some time in order for me to do some fixings around the house and show off to my wife that I'm a handyman, but I'm not really. But But all those things is in the beginning is what it took to make our bed in the morning. Like the things we were making fun of that in a meeting the other day or a get together. I forgot what it was, but my friends and I were like, you think about it, like the things that you're told to do when you first get sober, in your mind, they've got nothing to do with what's going on with you, right? Like my wife is leaving me. I owe $50,000. I just got into a car accident. Good. Go set these chairs up at the 8:00 meeting. It's 7:15. Hurry up. You're going to be late. Yeah. It's like, dude, you didn't hear what I just said. You didn't hear what I just said. I just gave you a list of, no, sure. I heard everything you said. Go set these chairs up, and it's those little directions that sort of, they're life skills. In this point, you're showing up, you're taking responsibility, you're acting as if you're setting chairs up and being of service to somebody else. Well, hell, you might go to bed a little bit freer than you did, a day before when you didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
Now, when she said clinical approach, I'm a little bit. Let me just say this, John, real quick. I'm a little bit I'm very. So I went to school, studied psych. I'm a counselor. Love helping people. That's my calling. That's what I do, and it takes a lot of effort and a lot of knowledge. And therapy is not easy. And I do meet people in AA that think that they've done what some of us have done, that they are now can give life advice is good. Advice is good. I'm not saying that's, but in terms of like clinical approach, I'm sorry, Caitlin. I know you said it with a good heart and everything. I'm not going hard on you, but it just reminded me of some of the people I sometimes look at and think, oh my goodness, he thinks he's a counselor. Oh, this is dangerous. This is dangerous,
Yeah.
But yeah, life skills, 100%. I needed them.
So she got a response from Paula, who writes, "Thanks for posting. I got sober again with the secular Zoom meetings, and I've been seeing a therapist twice a week all year. I think everyone who has been through the horrors of alcoholism would benefit from therapy. And at least in the secular community, it is almost the rule rather than the exception. I mean, if you have insurance, why not? Many of us have had to try out more than one to find a good fit. So if you don't have good trust and rapport with your first one, or if they just don't seem intuitive and astute enough, don't hesitate to move on to another one." So she's talking about the value of therapy and just the practical aspect of finding a therapist that works for you.
I'm on board with that 100%. I see my wife working a better program than I ever will. And she's added the elements of therapy and the things that she needs with the things that she struggles with. And there are therapy, there are things around therapy, there are certain tools that she's learned that she would need. And AA was a huge help for her in that respect, because the women that she surrounded herself with were women that, sure, they took her through the book, sure, they worked her through the steps, but they also told her there are some things that you need to go get help for.
Yeah.
And this is what that help looks like. And I remember this one speaker saying once, I never forgot it in my life. He said, sometimes you're going to meet someone in the rooms and your only job is going to be to get them professional help. That is all they met you for. That is the reason they met you. So not everybody is designed to just get a sponsor, work the steps, yada, 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 let's rock. Maybe most of us are. I don't know what the number is, percentages. Who cares? But some of us are way too ill. And I worked at this mental health facility, John, where those kids were taken to AA and they loved the meetings, but they couldn't go beyond that. They couldn't, their mental capacity was such, had such limitations that they wouldn't understand what the steps even meant or what a sponsor really meant. So they lived in a treatment center. They went to the meetings. They loved it. They sat there quietly. They saw other people, and then they went and got their therapy from the treatment center.
So I did therapy when I was in my early days of sobriety. Not early, I guess. I don't know, 5 years of sobriety, something like that. And I'm doing it again now. And it felt kind of weird, but I recognized, I actually got a text from Joe C., my friend who's in the group here, and he was texting me about some meeting that I missed, and I'm like, fuck, I'm recognizing this as a pattern. I'm just depressed. I'm depressed, and I'm withdrawing from everybody, and I don't know what the hell's going on, and I'm letting people down. It's just a vicious cycle. So I did. I'm seeing someone online, and already just from the first session, I started feeling some hope that, okay, I can recognize I got some way of getting out of this.
I'm so happy you did that.
Yeah, a lot of it just has to do with understanding that how much time I actually have in my day, and not just give it away freely. Like I love to do the podcast, but I need to, and I'm passionate about it, but I can't just say I have all this. I'm going to give all my time to it. I've got to really be careful to save time for, my health, my relationships, things like that. And I was just giving my time away. I say, oh, here's my relationship time, take it.
Yes.
Here's my exercise time, take it. So, that was just the first step, and she sent me some other material to go through. So I'm excited about that. And so I think there's a lot of value in therapy, and there are ways to get it. I mean, there are places in this community. Joe, it's so good to see Joe's comment. Joe, by the way, if you're not familiar with Joe, he has a podcast. He has a podcast called Rebellion Dogs Radio.
Really I've heard you talk about Rebellion Dogs Radio.
It's really good. In fact, he just put out an episode recently. I saw it posted on Facebook that I want to listen to. Joe, is your episode? I think it's about COVID and no, it's about how COVID has transformed our recovery community because we're all so good about being online now.
Right.
I think that's what his podcast episode's
Good point.
about.
Hey, Joe, if you don't mind, I can get your information from John, so maybe we can get you on our podcast too. Where I'll just be guests on each other's podcasts moving forward.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you, Joe. Joe's been a great friend for these years, and if it wasn't for his texts, I don't know what I'd be doing. Anyway.
Yeah, well, what does it feel like for you, John, to that initial realization that there's something wrong? I need to go to therapy. What does it feel like now for you? Does it feel like, fuck, here we go, or does it feel? Forgive me if I'm cursing, by the way.
No,
I'm not
it's a good question. It's a good question because, well, I think I was in denial. I was in freaking denial that I was depressed. And it took, and I had to, and it was just a bad situation, and I kept saying, I'm going to make, there's Angela. I'm going to just put my nose to the grindstone or do whatever I need to do, work, whatever. I couldn't do it. And finally it was like that moment when I saw the text from Joe, I said, fuck, this is not getting better. This is not getting better. I do need some help. And that's one of the beautiful things about recovery. I will ask for help now. It might take me 5 months, but I will eventually do it, right? So anyway, hi, Angela. Angela's in the room.
Hi, Angela. I took your spot, Angela. I appreciate it. Thanks for giving up your spot tonight. Hope you're doing well.
So we've come up on an hour, went over a little bit. I really, really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. I'm going to have you back. I want to have the other guys back on too. It's so good to have another podcasting person as a friend. And I put the link to his episodes for the Sober Pod. Pod. I have a lot going on here. So there it is. There's another link to it. You want to check out some of those episodes. In fact, the one episode 12 from season 3 is really, really good.
There goes Chris. Chris was listening to us.
All right. Hey, Chris. Oh, wonderful. Okay, guys. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to go ahead and play our outro. And that is it. Another episode of Beyond Belief Sobriety, another live stream on a Friday night. Thank you again, Sammer. It was a lot of fun.
You too,
and
John,
thank you, everybody. It was great. Thank you for participating, and we'll see you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.